Toscano. Former President Bill Clinton in Oklahoma City today commemorating the 20th anniversary of the terrorist bombing that destroyed a federal building and killed 168 people.
For 20 years, you have honored the memories of your loved ones. You have inspired us with the power of your renewal. You have reminded us that we should all live by the Oklahoma standard.
A new video released by ISIS appears to show the executions of around 30 Ethiopian Christians in Libya. The video portrays Christians as crusaders trying to kill Muslims and then shows beheadings and shootings. Ohio's Republican Governor John Kasich telling NBC's Meet the Press he's leaning toward entering the 2016 presidential race.
All my options are on the table here, and I'm, more and more serious, or I wouldn't be doing these things, and I have a pretty heavy schedule coming up.
And Republican South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham said today that he's 91% certain he'll run for president. I'm Michael Toscano. Republican Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, told CNN State of the Union today that even though Congress wants input on any Iran nuclear deal, a bill he just passed in committee does not undermine the president's authority.
This is of significance, huge significance, biggest geopolitical arrangement that possibly will be entered into. And right now, the president has absolute free hand to implement because Congress gave him that ability through national security waivers.
Firefighters continue to battle a wildfire near Corona in Southern California. Mandatory evacuations have been called off, but hundreds of homes may still be threatened as the blaze covers 300 acres. Meteorologist Ivan Cabrera says there won't be any help from Mother Nature.
As far as any rainfall, no, it's not going to happen. We're in this pattern. We're dry. We're not going to be looking at any rainfall over the next couple of days. We're going to have to watch for dry conditions.
Italy says 18 ships searching for as many 700 people believed to have been on a boat that capsized off Libya. I'm Michael Toscano.
Johnny wants to be a performer, and everybody knows school costs money. Johnny wants to know what he has to do to become a performer. Plus, he needs experience before he decides to spend the money for school. Johnny's confused. He has no one to talk to about his choices. He then hears an ad on the radio about Media8tor Arts Academy, where he can perform, network, train, and find a place to prepare for school. Johnny has found a place to expand his talents to make his decision and also increase his resume. Now, let's explain how Johnny got signed up. He went online to Media8inc.com and clicked on register. They called him back, asked him what his vision was, then found a place for him to perform. Whether it's theater, music, or movies, as long as Johnny is willing, Media8inc.com is able. And that's the story of how Johnny became a performer through Media8 Arts Academy.
You may have seen an episode of the PBS documentary series Finding Your Roots last fall that featured actor Ben Affleck. The show traces the ancestry of well-known guests. Well, what you did not see is that Affleck's roots include a slave-owning ancestor. Now, that's not something Affleck can be blamed for, but he did ask that it not be mentioned, according to emails published by whistleblower website WikiLeaks. PBS and Harvard scholar Henry Louis Gates, the program's host, said they didn't censor the slave owner details. They just chose to highlight what they called more interesting ancestors of Affleck. Well, if you live in San Diego, you'll be able to go back to work after lunch tomorrow with Egg McMuffin on your breath. McDonald's is beginning a test of an all-day breakfast menu at the 94 McDonald's in San Diego. They did a run-through yesterday at one spot with somebody winning a year's worth of breakfast sandwiches. Well, it's not free McMuffins, but somebody has won some big cash. Here are the winning numbers in last night's Powerball drawing: 13, 22, 23, 29, 31. Powerball 17, Power Play 3. I'm Michael Toscano.
Have you ever thought about publishing a book, but just didn't know how to do it? Well, at Media8, we try to make publishing simple. You ask questions, we give you answers. You want a book? We find the right option for you to publish. When you need advice about getting your methods out to the world, Media8 is the place to call. Register today at Media8inc.com, where we make ideas seem simple.
This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo. All personnel report to nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator. Have no fear, fellow citizens. The mediator is here.
All doctors to the ER. All nurses to the nurses station. Code blue 305. 10-4 engine high in 3 central. Shots fired, shots fired. Officer down. I repeat, officer down. 911, what's your emergency? Backup is en route.
Evacuations continue tonight in Maribel.
Apartments, you can see this evacuation notice on one door.
Rolling, motion, roll sound, and action.
Ladies and gentlemen, Americans, Pennsylvanians, Ohioans, welcome to the Mediator with Brian West and Alicia Sparks.
Hello, hello.
We have a wonderful guest on the show today. We're going to talk about the dark side of humanity. Everybody in life possesses this side of them that comes out.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have one?
I do, but I keep it concealed, Sparks.
Oh, okay.
Dom, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you, Brian?
Pretty good. We have author Dawn Maxwell. She is the author of Ultimate Blood, and she's going to talk to us today about the other side of life, the side that everybody tries to contain. Even some of the holiest of holiest people have a dark side to them, Spark.
I
agree.
Know
what I'm saying? So
I
we're gonna chop it up with Dom today. So Dom, how are you on this fine, lovely day here in the northeastern Ohio states?
Actually, I am enjoying the weather. I'm loving it. No snow. We're doing great. Sunshine, no rain.
Yes.
Okay, now you write about vampires. You write about things that people consider to be not of this world. Your imagination is on that level. So tell us a little bit about your writing, Don. What got you into in that type of ballpark?
Actually, I've always been interested in the dark side of things. Vampires have always attracted me since I was a child. I love everything with vampires. And it's amazing how vampires have actually changed over the years.
Yes, they
vampires,
have.
when they first started out, were so ugly. They were just, creatures that hid in the dark, and they couldn't come out. And, even if they did come out, you didn't want to see them because they were the things that would make you scream and, hide. And, and now if you look at vampires today, I hate to say it, but they're really hot. I mean,
right.
Now, in your book, your characters are unique. You don't have the typical vampire story here. Right. It's your characters are the story. Just to give everybody a little vision out there. The story starts off kind of like the Goonies. These regular teenagers are going on, and they end up venturing off into Louisiana to where they end up getting into this mysterious world. So tell us a little bit about your characters, Don. What made you change up the format a little bit?
Alex is a 16-year-old typical boy. He thinks he's untouchable. Nothing in the world is actually real, like vampires don't exist and things like that, until he hits Louisiana, the swamplands, where he actually finds out there are things that exist like werewolves, and he finds out about Wookiees, which actually are the werewolves that hide in the swamplands of Louisiana. And Alec is kind of still not believing much until he actually gets encountered by this stuff. And it's a typical, I like the idea in the sense when we wrote it that we wanted Alec and people to bond with him, realizing what life is like for a 16-year-old boy that gets moved from his friends in California, thrown into a swampland where his surfing isn't an option anymore. He went from a surfing life, having fun on a beach, to swamplands and, having to make new friends in high school and going through all the changes, and this was kind of a way for him to go against his parents and saying, hey, look, I don't believe in vampires, and even if they did exist, what would it hurt to become one?
Right. So, Dawn, I have a question for you.
Sure, yeah.
We're speaking on the characters. Now, Brian was filling me in on the book. What is the difference between Wookiees and vampires? What's the difference between the two?
Okay, a Wookiee is actually a werewolf. We called it that. We called it a Wookiee. Actually, we're going to call it a Cherokabata, which is actually a Louisiana swamp creature that it's an old legend down there.
Right.
But when we actually went to publish it, our publishing company and us went back and forth on the name because of it being so hard, and this being a YA novel, a young adult read.
Right.
They just thought that Wookiee came out a little easier. It was also another form of a werewolf.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So it does have nothing to do with Star Wars because people go a lot of times, is that Star Wars?
Yes.
It's like, no, it's not.
Totally different. Okay.
So now let's get into this this world, this poetic world. Now, you talk about in the book, there's a side to this character Alex where he has to make a decision to go on the dark side. But the thing is when he gets into that world of actually becoming a vampire, he actually realizes that he has a task at hand. So tell us now, before we get into the poetic side of it, where I'm trying to get into the evil side, what is this about now? Yeah, what is this about now? What are these vampires? What is the mission of a vampire? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask.
The vampires in our book isn't all just a typical rip your throat out type vampire. We just didn't want to prove that vampires could be uncaring, that they actually have a family that they create, that they actually care for one another. They have that nurturing for one another because this is their family, and they'll give anything to stick up for their family because they want to stay hidden from the human race. Because in our book, we prove that what the humans don't understand about vampires, then they would actually kill them. So if they stay hidden from them, this is the best protection they have.
To preserve.
So they always have to watch out for the hunters that come for the vampires.
I think that's really cool.
The Wookiees. And in the book, I kind of explain that the werewolves and vampires are at a fight because there's actually, and I know you probably read it in the book, Brian, there's actually, it goes back to the Civil War. They're actually on the battlefield. And the vampires never come out of cover because there's plenty of blood on a battlefield for them to stay hidden. But the werewolves on a full moon get exposed, and then they start getting killed off by the soldiers because this is a creature that no one understands either. And they revolt against the vampires in that sense because you can stay hidden, we can't. You know, that's not right.
When I was talking to Sparks about it, Don, I'm trying to figure out is it real? Because we sometimes we go out and we see
a lot of things. A lot of things.
You see,
and I think what we're trying to get at is like in the poetic sense of the book. Do you think, you being the creator and the author, do you think that Wookiees and vampires really do exist in our day and age?
I've been asked that at many book signing events.
I mean,
people that have come back, that have read the book, said, wow, the way you write vampires and the way you come up with werewolves, we actually wonder if
it's real.
Vampire? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. But, you know.
No, because listen, Don, listen. Okay, you got Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde. Everybody's got this real. That's what I'm sitting up here when I'm reading the book. I'm getting this sense like, wow, this sounds like this could really could be. But they don't call them vampires. You know what I'm saying? Like they call them like just criminals or because you can see like when you're out there, there's some zombies, man. You know what I'm saying? And you hang out with the guys from the Walking Dead series, so I guess. And it's funny is that people consider that type of writing, they try to say it's demonic and it's not. But if you're actually watching it in a sense, is there like a purpose for this type of ball?
Connection.
Yeah, is there a connection to this type of ball field that we playing on right now?
Are you asking me like, is it all evil? I mean, is it evil for
I'm just saying, is it like you like
a connection between real life and creative life?
Like, do you guys? This is what I'm saying. Like, do you guys look at the players on this field, and then is that how you write stories? Like, do you get your material from the things you actually see in life, and then do you put your characters on that in that reality, or is this just something that just burns up in the imagination? Because it's something.
I would say it's half and half. I mean, sometimes when you're out in public, you'll see the way people walk and talk and carry themselves. And you carry that into some characters. But you also have some of it that comes from the imagination within yourself. Because you're going to change it. You're going to spice it up to the way that you want your character to be.
Right. That makes sense.
And like some of the characters in that book that we have in there, I mean, some of them you notice like... you got Naya. She's very nurturing. She's the nurturing one of the group. She's a trainer, and she's hard and she's tough, but she also has that nurturing side of her. Kind of that, as some people say, mother figure. And then you've got Bryce that's in the book, and he's kind of got the silly side to him. He's kind of the big brother to Alec. He kind of took him under his wing, and he's the big brother, and he kind of, so it kind of comes from people, like you said, and things you see out in the public, but also some of it comes from within yourself, how you want your characters to be,
And it sounds like you have a very well-rounded amount of characteristics in the book. People who are going to bring a lot of different aspects to the book, to help build your story plot. So that sounds very interesting.
Now tell us about this. Now you had Uncle Reese in the book where he's got to train the vampires. What is this train? That's what I like about your story, Dawn. It's like your story goes into a different, like the old vampires were dark characters where they're going and sucking blood out of people's necks. But your vampires are like, we got a mission, we're going to save the humans, which
is really cool.
Yeah, it is.
That's cool.
So tell us a little bit about Reese's position. He has to train the vampires. What does he have to train them?
Reese's position, he becomes the uncle because he's the caretaker of all of them, all the young ones, the newbies. And he's kind of got a tough job, and he likes to explain to them that, like Alec, he wants to go back to his family. Well, you just can't go back to your family. You're not who you used to be.
Right.
So they have to go through a training period where they learn how to stay in control. So they're not the typical old vampires where they rip your throat out and want to drain you, or whatever.
Right.
These vampires actually have control, and they carry themselves with much dignity. So they actually can blend in among the human race while they're still trying to protect the humans. The humans don't believe that there's, werewolves out there that are evil. They're trying to, take on the humans, and the vampires are out there actually trying to be the guardians of these. And that's where Uncle Reese comes into play, where he's like teaching them almost like back in the days when you're a child, teaching you how to walk, teaching you how to have control, things that you can't do, even though there are going to be times when you're going to lose control, and he explains that to them. You just got to do what you've been taught.
What made you change it up a little bit, Dawn? Like, what made you change up the format?
Which I can appreciate. I like it a lot.
I like it. I was real. I'm not really into. I liked Goosebumps when I was growing up.
Right.
Like
I watched the shows too.
Yeah,
I did it.
So what made you change it up, Dawn?
I wanted people to think of vampires different. I just didn't want people to always classify them as the nasty, gnarly creatures of the night.
Right.
I wanted them to realize that they can be dignified, they can be classy. Sure, they still like blood, but they can also have self-control.
Right.
Wow.
And they can blend among the human race, which a lot of stories, they just don't make the vampires blend in. I mean, right now, I've got people coming back going, wow, there could be vampires walking among us.
And we would never know.
And
we would never know.
Now, you got this character, what I thought was unique was Bubba. Now, Bubba has this grandmother. Let me tell you about this character, Sparks. This is a funny character. He's an African-American kid. He's sitting on this bus, and everybody's making fun of him.
Bubba.
And that's her imagination.
And it's typical, too, because it's down south.
Right.
Typical of the old South.
Yes.
They still have a lot of segregation.
Yes.
So he's sitting on the bus, and these kids are making fun of him. But Alec, who's supposed to be this real charismatic, loving type guy, comes over to him, and he says, "Hey, Bubba," he starts making friends with him.
Right.
So now his grandmother is supposed to be somebody is she supposed to be like a witch or?
She's a Wiccan.
She's a Wiccan. So tell us about what is a Wiccan?
Yeah, what is a Wiccan?
A Wiccan is a person that practices all types of natural herbs as healing.
Got it.
They do everything for Mother Nature.
Okay.
So,
and
that's what everybody on the bus thinks he is evil, like a witch.
Okay.
His grandmother's a witch. That makes him evil. He's a witch because they don't understand that his grandmother is a Wiccan and she does everything with natural herbs.
Right.
And, remedies like that. She doesn't believe in, treating stuff like, going to the doctor for antibiotics and things like that. She believes in all holistic approach.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, I was gonna say these characters that you're talking about, Don. This is why I love the Media8tor, Sparks, because we get to try to merge worlds. We get to try to see where we can kind of. Now, if you understand the biblical sense, Dawn, if you got any type of scriptural knowledge, there was a part where King Saul, he goes to the witches and he ends up being cursed and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a separation between these worlds, but you found a way to try to
merge.
Yeah, to try to merge it to where people can get an understanding that everybody has this dark side that they have in them. But
and if you remember from the book too, Brian, I don't want to spoil it, but I did have people that come back and they said, oh my gosh, you have done something no one's ever done with a vampire. When Alec is actually in the mausoleum part in Louisiana, he is deciding to take his life. He's a vampire.
Right.
And he dies. And if he dies, does he go to heaven or does he go to hell?
Right.
He's actually laying there questioning himself.
Wow.
Where do I go?
What's
do
the
I
next
even
step?
have a soul?
So I have a question for you, Dawn.
Yes.
Now, I know that you spoke earlier and you said that, you really have a thing for vampires. You always have, and it's something that has intrigued you for a very long period of time. That aside, how did you get into writing about vampires? What was it that finally pushed you to say, you know what, I'm going to kind of change the game a little bit, change the way that people look at vampires, and I'm going to put my own twist on it, and I'm going to write about vampires myself? What made you do that?
It was my daughter and I working together. My daughter wrote a short story, vampire story, when she was younger, and in school. And she was in 7th grade.
Oh, nice.
And everybody really, really liked it. And it was really kind of like a Goosebumps. It was a really nice short story.
Okay.
And she had to come back home. She came back home the one day, and she was really sad. She goes, I have to condense it. And nobody in the class wants to write as much. And it was a really cute idea because the teacher was doing so the kids could make little stories for their parents to bring home.
Right.
And so she said, Mom, can you help me? And I'm like looking at it. I'm like, okay, what do we take out? Because when you're a writer, it's very hard to take stuff out.
Right. Because you want to tell the whole story.
Right. And so I helped her with that. And once I did that, a little light bulb went off. And I'm like, you like writing, I like writing. I love vampire stuff. She loves supernatural stuff. She's like me. But she's more the werewolf type person. I'm more the vampire person.
Okay.
And so with our two brains together, it worked out really well. And, it's like I say something about the vampires, and she's like, I like that. Or she'd say, no, I don't think I like that. Or,
let's change it.
Right, and that's what really sparked me into writing this vampire novel together with her.
That's
was
awesome.
a way to show that mother and daughter can actually work together. Children can spend time with their parents and actually create something.
Yes.
So that was our main purpose, was to get it out there to show that young adults, young kids in high school can actually spend time with their parents.
Right.
And it's not uncool.
Right.
It's actually a cool thing to do,
And to come up with something that's really, really cool.
This was like a family project. And now tell us... when you see books like when you see Britain or from the European countries come over here and they sell a lot of books, do you think there's a lot of support for American authors in their own country?
I don't think as much. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for any author. As we go around the schools, because we go around a lot of the middle schools and high schools and do, speaking about the book, and we do all kinds of panel stuff. But, and kids will be like, they hate writing. That's like one of the big things they hate. And
I loved writing.
A lot of writing.
I
loved it.
And in high school, they push writing so much on the kids that it's funny when we get there, they're like, I hate writing.
Right.
So I sit down and I say, okay, you know what? Next time you have to write a story, think of it this way. You're in control. You're the boss.
You can write what you want.
You create, something, and you make it something really big.
Right.
And like a lot of people go, well, I don't like love stories. I don't like love stories either. I don't create love stories. I tell them that,
Right.
I'm like, you can create a Western. You can create a, a horror.
It's your imagination.
Supernatural. I said, you can write an animal story.
Right.
And this little spark goes off, and it's amazing that how many kids all of a sudden decide that, you're right, I'm in control. And I said, the best part is when you get mad and you have a really crappy day, you can knock off a character and you don't get in trouble for it.
Right.
They say knock them off. So now, Dawn, you've tapped into the art of finding a way to get the side of you out in writing. Now, when you're writing, do you go through situations and do you just get it out with the typewriter? Like when let's say for instance, like in some of the parts in the book, some of the characters have to die. Do you plot a way like okay, my husband just made me upset, I'm going to go here, I'm going to knock somebody. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? This is how I would handle this.
Is that how
do this in the book?
About day, so I'm going to knock you off.
That's funny.
Actually, no. Believe it or not, I have. And I laugh because I thought I was one of the few authors that do have conversation with your own characters.
Right.
I mean, you'll actually, sometimes it's while you're taking it. To me, it's a shower because I can have the most relaxing, quiet time is when I'm taking a shower.
Yep.
And my characters will be like, why'd you make me do that? Or, why would you kill me that way? I wouldn't die that way.
Right.
And you start thinking about it.
So
you come out of the shower and you sit down with your character and you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's how
this is how this is going to go.
Let me knock you off this way.
Right.
Wow.
Is that better? Is this how you want to go out?
Right. But I find, and I tell this to a lot of people, if your characters talk to you, then it's no longer just a novel on a piece of paper. It's just not words there. It actually comes alive. It actually pops out like 3D. So it actually brings the reader into the novel where they actually feel like they're watching a movie or they're actually becoming part of these characters.
That's awesome.
And that's the main thing about writing I like to do, and my daughter too, is we want to make it three-dimensional. We don't want it flat. If it's a flat story, it's no good. It's not going to pull you in.
It's a way to make it identifiable.
So are any of these characters based off of any family members or people you know?
You know, should I say no?
Let's let it out.
That's
actually, a little bit of me and my daughter are actually in that, the book. It's kind of funny, and it's funny because Ripper, actually, you remember Ripper in the book? Is a weird twist, and I had the publishing company come back on that one. They're like, holy cow, I never thought of Ripper being in a book, you know, and because people haven't talked about Jack the Ripper in
a long time.
Oh, Jack the Ripper was wild.
Yeah.
I mean, what made you bring? I don't think he really liked women too well. Jack the Ripper. He was wasn't he?
Yeah, Jack the Ripper had a very rough life, and the one that he fell in love with turned out really bad. And and I don't want to spoil it in the story because that's such a weird twist.
Right.
And you know what's funny is there's this author, Dawn, that and this is what I like about the world of writing, why it's so misunderstood, and why I think more Americans should get involved with writers. They have to, you know, because you can see the art. They keep replaying old stories, but there are a lot of good American writers still on the battlefield. Like when I was reading your story, I'm like, wow, this is, you know, and she's an American writer. People should be supporting. And you don't see a lot of laws in Congress. They're out there battling for all this stuff, but arts has made a difference in a lot of people's lives. You know, you can take all your anger out in just a story. You can take all of your aggression out, and that's what I'm saying. One president I believe it might have been Kennedy who may have helped out the Writers Guild a little bit, but I really like where you were going in the story. Now you have this vision. What do you think your next books are going to lead up to now that you've started it?
Actually, part 2 of that book starts out in California, you know, and it actually shows that the grass isn't always so green on the other side. It's not so easy being a vampire, and life has a lot of struggles. And this book actually is a lot about internal, external conflict.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
You know, that they're going through. And there's a lot of internal conflict in book 2 with Alec, the character, and Bubba. And they're like, you know, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's going to be, that one is going to be really action-packed. A lot of stuff people are never going to believe because they're going to be like, holy cow, where did this come from?
Right, nice twist.
And that's what we wanted to do in this one. We wanted to actually, because in book 1, we wanted to bring people in, bond to the characters, you know, to the point where they actually feel like, you know, they love them like they're their brother or sister or relative, you know, and they cry over the spots and they're happy in spots like I was telling you before, Brian. But book 2, we want them to realize that there's also they're not so innocent all the time than what you think they are. There are bad things that, you know, they have to overcome and they're battling with inside themselves, you know.
Right.
So it's not a whole world with rosy glasses, you know what I mean?
Right.
All
right, everybody, you're listening to The Mediator with Brian West and Alicia Sparks. And if you want to donate to the program, go ahead and say it. I always like when Alicia says it.
We're going to do Method 8, and that is the number 8, not spelled 8. Method8inc.com.
Yes, if you want to donate to the program, we are talking to Dawn Maxwell. She is the author of Ultimate Blood, and we're talking about the dark side of human nature. Is it all in the imagination, or do people really have it? Now, we're going to get to the mystical side.
The dark side. You sure this isn't Star Wars?
No, we're talking.
Sure.
We're getting into the mystical side now, Dawn. Okay, this is where it gets because if you study religion, you study the religious. It talks about Jesus died at Golgotha. He died at Golgotha. I believe it was Golgotha, right? So they pull him off the cross, and this underground world starts to create of mysticism where people start to believe in all this resurrectional power and things like that. Now, in your story, you talk about how these characters are living forever. They don't die. What does that have to do? Why are humans so fascinated
with immortality?
Just death and life. Tell us a little bit about that, Dawn.
I think the reason I created the characters the way I did, I think the reason people are so fascinated with vampires is the fact of living forever. Dying is a scary thing to people. People are afraid to die because they don't know what's out there.
Next.
Where do you go afterwards, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a really bad person, you know, you may not want to go.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And being a vampire prevents them from having that worry. You know, they figure they're never going to have to face that. So it's kind of a way of, I hate to say it, like cheating death, but, you know, I think that's why people are drawn to vampires. I mean, there are people that, and I've seen it where they're actually willing to donate themselves just to be a vampire. Convert me.
Yes, I've seen that in the book too. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's groups all over the United States that vampire groups they call themselves.
Wow.
You know, and they want to be vampires, and they're looking for someone to make them a vampire, or they claim they're vampires.
I have seen that before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or they like sharpen their teeth so that they look like a vampire. Yeah.
This is some interesting stuff because now, say for instance, Dom, me and Sparks, I get up and I just decide I want to just push her out of the car.
Oh, let's not do that.
This is the dark side.
We're there, but let's find somebody else to push out the car together. It's not going to be me.
Oh my goodness, he's not very nice.
No, this is what happens though in the real world. People think this stuff.
Okay,
this is
we'll go there.
We getting mystical because I'm interested in this dark world that.
So I got pushed out the car. What's next?
So you push her out the car and she hits the pavement.
And then,
so do I get to turn into the vampire and come back into the car and get you? Is that how we're going to work this out?
So is that how it works? I mean, where does she go, Dawn?
Because I'm not going to die.
We got this big imagination about the dark side. I mean, do you believe now? Some of the greatest writers and some of the greatest theologians of all time have battled with this idea of heaven and hell. Do you believe that there is a heaven and a hell?
I would say I think heaven and hell, there is, Brian. I would say I believe there's angels and demons that walk among us every day.
I agree.
I think because now, that's what I'm saying. Now, most people, we're about to
Let's get there. Let's go. Come on.
Dig up some graves.
Let's go. Okay, I'm not doing that.
I'm picking up Sparks.
He's going to come back and get me.
Because, this is what happens in the story. Some people they just go and they take the blood from the people's hospital, and this guy comes up and he's like, don't worry, you guys don't have to go and sacrifice humans. We can get blood from the hospitals.
Oh, okay.
So that's what's happening in the story.
That's deep.
It's deep, isn't it?
That's deep.
So, okay, me and Sparks are best of buddies now. We're back on track. I didn't push her out of the car.
Good.
We're best friends, and we're having a big party.
Okay.
And we notice some people are on drugs, and they're like lifted, and they're like
on another level than where we are.
Now, do you think that they're channeling? Because me and Sparks was talking about this a while back. Remember the conversation we was having about some rappers?
Yes.
And how they
get in a zone.
Yeah, they say things that are. There are some rappers out there who say things like, I'm going to hell for scuffing Jesus and things like that.
Right.
So where do you think they're getting these thoughts from, Dom? Do you think it's coming from a different type of force?
And it's funny people say that. They say, is there such a thing as people could get possessed?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, tell us.
And that to me, as being a writer, really interests me because, as I said before, if there's angels and demons, which I believe walk among us, why couldn't there be possession?
Right.
And these people get possessed with some Satan type entity inside their body, and then they go and they do like they do at these schools. God forbid, they go in and they shoot a bunch of children.
And they do things right under possession.
I mean, is that really them, or are they actually possessed with something? It makes you wonder. I mean,
or even how the possession starts.
Think as a normal human being, that's not a normal function.
Right. Agreed. I do believe that.
So now we uncovering some stuff here because now check this out. Now, this is theology, Sparks.
Yeah,
don't get upset with me, Sparks.
I'm still in the car.
Because Sparks got an accident.
I'm still in the car.
The reason why I'm joking with Sparks because she got an accident a few days ago, so I'm just playing with her. Yeah. She's all right. Bless her heart.
God, she's okay.
I'm alive.
But let's go into this now. Okay, now check this out, Dawn. This is deep. Okay, now you were talking about in the story about how Bubba's grandmother is she's enthused. Yeah, she's a is it how they call it? A Wiccan. Okay, so she's she's enthused with nature. She finds mystical sides of nature to healing. Now this is her belief. She's kind of voodoo in a sense.
I like the way you said that.
Yeah, this is her belief.
Correct.
Now, what I like about nature, Dawn, is there's good fruit and there's bad fruit. Like you go in the garden, you'll see poison ivy and you'll see regular leaves.
Fruit.
Yeah, isn't that something? So how do we decipher? Like, how do we find out which fruit is actually good from?
Especially when they cohabitate together.
Yeah, and they look
kind of the same.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about these vampires. They look human.
Right.
So tell us. So how do we decipher, Dom? How do we tell the difference?
Are your vampires beautiful, like how they are in what's the movie?
They are. They're very attractive.
They're attractive and beautiful.
They're attractive and beautiful, but in the same thing, I made them, or I should say, we made them to the point where, would they attract you? Sure, they would attract you. Would they want to have your blood? Probably, but they've gone through a training period where they're not going to do that. They're not going to step over that edge of the evilness of a wicked, wicked vampire.
Right. The stereotype.
Could they break down? Could they have a moment where they just snap and turn into this wild beast? Sure. Sure, they could.
So do they?
If there's enough blood and it's laying there, it's like anything. If you tease it enough,
it's gonna go.
It's gonna push them over the edge, and they're gonna go. So, does their beauty still stay that way? Yeah, they're beautiful on the outside, but the inside they're actually ugly.
They're still part of that dark side. So, is part of their training, learning how to conserve and learning how to observe blood?
Part of training. And I know Brian probably read that, is actually a very rigid course. It's actually where they actually have blood actually in front of them, where they have to learn to control themselves, where they can't go rip into it,
Makes me think of Finding Nemo with the sharks and Dory and how they had to go through training.
I mean, I'm just fascinated with this because everybody's battling with this because everybody's watching people do some crazy things. Like you got ISIS over there, you get even people in its own country. I mean, they're killing priests and things like that. Some people in Mexico are killing priests, and we're watching all these dark sides unfold. And people, what I like about when I was reading the book is they were trying to contain this beast
inside.
Okay. And it's amazing how a person can live their entire life trying to contain this beast inside of them. Like some men battle, they rape women, some people go out, they molest kids, and nobody has been able to find a solution. Like even when you had the Sandusky case in PA, where this guy, he has a fetish for little, and these beasts are inside of people. Do you think that writing is a way to get this out? Like there's a lot of material. Is it an outlet, Dawn, for people to get?
I think it's a good way for people to be aware of what could possibly happen.
That's a good way for
wake people up and make them realize that there could be beasts inside of people.
Right. Yeah. Like self-check.
I do. It makes you go back to thinking about, like you were saying, how people just, do the weirdest things that you wouldn't think somebody would do.
Right.
I mean, they do. Like my mom was just talking about this little kid. My sister's friend, she has a little boy. Now, his grandmother falls asleep on the couch. He paints her face and glues her eyes shut. A little kid.
Oh my God!
Isn't that crazy?
Oh wow!
So
it is crazy.
So they have to call the ambulance. Now they're putting these kids on like medicines and things like that to calm this irrational thinking. People think some of the weirdest things, and everybody's
work through that.
Yeah, everybody's trying to figure out. And then Dom, check this out. Okay, you got. You know how you got overseas, you got different types of faith. Like you have the jinn, you have the different types of people. They talk about the different types of people, different types of cultures.
Religions and cultures.
Yeah, and they say that these people, like the veterans, when they come over to the United States, they bring some of these idols, like these things from other countries, and they come to the United States, and then they start killing themselves. And so, do you think that the symbolization, like there's something? Because you're a specialist, Dawn. I'm looking at you like the specialist.
That's why we're asking.
Yeah, she's the.
Are you saying like could these actually be possessed?
Yeah, are these?
They bring?
Is there
like,
something going on?
Yeah,
is this supernatural stuff going on? We're talking about
That's That's a very good question because it makes you wonder. I mean, you watch some of these shows that, well, Supernatural show. That's actually a good show. I like that show.
Right.
I'm sorry, some people say, "Oh my gosh, that show," but I love Supernatural. But when I watch that show, you start wondering how unreal is some of this stuff.
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
it had to come from somewhere.
It had to come from somewhere, and it goes back to the fairy tales.
Yes.
Think about some of your fairy tales.
Right.
I mean,
right.
You know,
there's some truth to everything.
Right. And then you think about folklore, you know, and it makes you start thinking, you know, and, well, like I was telling you about in our story, the werewolves are actually told in Louisiana. It's an old folklore. They'd sit around the campfires down there, and they would tell their children stories that if you don't behave, the Characabara is going to come and get you. He will come get you. So it's an old folk. So how unreal is that? And you start thinking about it. Is there really a creature that lives in the Louisiana swamp that is werewolf looking, and does he really come and steal children in the night?
That is, and you know, it's like there's like this big battle with the church and people trying to find a use for the church. But if you recall, back in the day, the church would burn people at stake, like Joan of Arc and things like that. And they actually believed that these people who, you know, they had their what they call pagan worship of these demons, and they were bringing them into the forefront. So now there's always that spiritual warfare going on. Do you think that really exists, or do you think it's in the imagination, Dawn?
Oh, I think that exists, the war. I mean, people assume, like Bubba's grandma, being a Wiccan, they assume that she's on the dark side. They assume she's evil instantly without realizing that she could actually be on the white side of it. Maybe she's actually practicing everything white, and there's no evil to it. You know, it doesn't mean just because she's, you know, into, you know, the holistic approach of stuff with herbs and everything natural, that doesn't make her evil because she's not inside the box like everybody else.
Agreed.
And it's just weird, Sparks.
I think touching back on you know, movies and books and different things that are, you know, a little bit more on the supernatural to extremely supernatural. There's always a point in time when if I'm watching a movie, and even if it has to do with, you know, scientific research or, you know, advances in technology, I'm like, if someone made a movie about this or wrote a story about this has to exist at some point in time somewhere. I don't know if someone's in the process of making it.
With the box, I don't remember the name of the movie, but the guy actually stopped and bought that box for his daughter at a garage sale. And the box actually contained a demon in it.
Wow.
I don't remember the name of the movie that came out. But, you know, we were having a conversation, a bunch of friends and I, and they're like, "Oh, that can't be real." And I'm like, "No,
it could be.
It
can be.
It definitely could be.
You know, because it goes back to Ouija boards. We have this conversation about Ouija boards. There's no Ouija boards at Toys R Us for kids to play with.
That's crazy.
But
I've
what
seen
they
that.
don't realize
I couldn't
is
touch
a Ouija
one.
board is actually opening a doorway to another dimension.
Exactly.
And what you pull out of that dimension could affect a lot of people.
Now,
you know.
The scary movies, Dawn, have changed. They're like really
gory.
You know, because we used to watch. Now the scary movies we watched in our day, like Michael Myers,
there was
Freddy Krueger. There was like excitement.
There was a storyline.
Now they're like it almost seems too real.
And I'm glad you brought that up because, like Saw's one. People ask me, "Have you ever seen Saw?"
Oh yeah,
no,
I watched them all.
No, I have never seen it because one,
it's not a scary movie.
A bunch of people getting cut up.
That's all it is. It's different ways of people trying to get paid back for what they've done in life, and either they answer the story or answer the question correctly, or they get cut up and die, or something. And that to me is not scary. That's just nasty. It's just let's just go to the movie and watch people die a whole bunch of different ways. I'm not a fan.
Because people, what we're talking about here, Dom, this is some serious stuff. You know, that's why I like when me and Dom talk, we talk.
Yeah.
You know, we sit there, we chat. Because I'm an angelic writer, and she writes about we're on
two opposite sides.
But Dom's personality is so bright. She's so loving, you know.
You can sense that.
Now, check this out. Okay, they talk about spirits, like how you can speak. Like I can come to Sparks and say, like when I tell you about her pushing her out of the car, it created a level. Like she's like, okay, wait a minute,
hold on.
But I can say things to Sparks like, Sparks, you're beautiful. Everything is going to be great. You're going to have an excellent day. Can you speak somebody into greatness? Do you think so? I can speak.
I think so.
Of course. Power. Everything within life is in the power of the tongue. So whatever you speak is what's going to manifest. So if I say to you, you're going to be powerful and you're going to be strong and you're going to be rich, if you really do believe those things, like I believe those things, then it's going to happen.
I agree too, and I think what you put out in the universe comes back.
That's right.
Now you could be starting a whole new world of vampires out there, Dawn. I'm serious, because her story, I'm sitting there reading it, and I'm getting all these ideas. When I first started, it starts off real calm. These kids are getting to know each other. He has to move to Louisiana. His girl, is it colleague? Is that how you pronounce it? How do you pronounce that?
Yeah.
Is it colleague?
Yeah, colleague. Yeah.
Colleague, and she has
Callie.
She has this friend, and he leaves, and it's a very nice, touching story. And I've never seen
a warm,
and
entrance.
it's like Dom has created almost like a force to where if we were to write together, I could write my angels and putting her vampires on the same team.
And they'd all get together real nice. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And they would get along.
Right.
Yeah, because in Dreaming with Joe, I believe it was Dreaming with Joe, I created this book, this group called the Media8tor, where Joe finds this group of kids to help him fight. So I'm thinking like maybe we could collaborate someday, Dom, and
I think that should happen. I think you should do it.
There we go.
Yeah. Make it a movie.
Well, she has a good story. Like her protagonist and her antagonist are there. She's got so many avenues where she could go with the story.
That's really cool.
It is exciting. I like her story. So tell us.
Here was the thing. I wanted to touch everybody. I just didn't want people to think of vampires and werewolves as such dark and evil. I wanted to bring it out in a whole different light.
That's what's cool about it.
That's what my daughter and I did, I think, when we created Ultimate Blood. Because we've had people, our youngest reader that we've had is 6. Mom has read the book to her. And our oldest reader is 99. And every one of them, they've come back, have said, they've cried, they've laughed.
Good.
You know, they've actually got mad in spots. They felt like they were part of the characters or part of the group, you know, part of the new family of vampires. Or some of them went up to the werewolf side. You know, I'm a werewolf. I'm 100% werewolf.
Right.
You know, but
that's really
it's
cool.
funny because you listen to these people and they come up with stuff that, you know, you've created, my daughter and I created this fantasy world.
Right.
But it actually has become almost like a reality to some people that have actually read
this is an American writer we talking to
that's
right
awesome.
Here. And that's what I like. That's what I say, all you writers out there, if you're listening, find us, me and Sparks, and we will discuss your writings with you.
We sure will.
Because everybody's talking about all this nonsense, man, you know.
Or negativity.
Yeah, let's talk about you're creating stories.
Yeah.
You're sitting there, an American writer, you got J.K. Rowling coming to the United States. She sells like billions and billions. And American writers are sitting there watching like, wait a minute, I'm on the team.
We're here.
I'm on the team.
Somebody come get us. Yeah.
For real, because I had a book signing, Sparks. I'll never forget this, all right? I'm not a jealous of Rick Ross. The man came into town. They went to his concert. They didn't come to my Christian signing, man.
I mean, but Rick Ross is nationally and internationally known.
I'm just kidding.
We just got to get you internationally and nationally known.
I mean, I think the basis of a writer is to try to get the story out there, the passion, the love,
and to get people to be able to identify with what you're speaking, and for it to touch their lives in a certain type of way.
I do want you to keep writing though, Dawn. Like even if I got to make movies for you, because she's like on point. I mean,
in every angle.
Her characters are like me and you.
Like me so much to me too.
Oh yeah, me and Spark. Your characters are like me and Sparks going into the radio station, then all of a sudden coming out, and we've got our vampire unis on.
Yeah,
we're going out to the nightlife.
It's time to go.
Yeah, we're taking on the world. So.
And I'm gonna lock the door so I don't get pushed out.
No.
I always tease Brian. I always tell me, you never know. I might be a vampire.
You never know. You never know.
Well,
never know.
Tell us some things you got going on. Where can people get your book, and what are you doing so far, Dawn?
Actually, people can get the book online. It's on Amazon. They also can buy it in the bookstore. It's at Bradley's Bookstore. It's also online. You can also get it at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. It's available for Kindle, Nook, and iPad. So it's all out there in every angle form that you can think of.
Nice.
Right now, I've got some movies I'm in coming up again, which I'm excited about. I got some new movies that I'm going to be
You're in one of my
acting
movies.
In.
She's going to be in one of my movies.
And I'm so excited about that. I can't wait.
Angels.
I am I'm very, very excited about that.
I think you're going to, I can't, we got a nice little group of people we're going to be working with on this film, so I can't wait for that. For everybody tuning in, you are listening to The Mediator with Brian West and Alicia Sparks.
Hey.
We are talking to Dawn Maxwell, and she is telling us about the dark side of human nature, and we're finding out that there's some light even in the dark side with her book, Ultimate Blood. She talks about how the vampires become they have a task that, and they separate across the globe almost like the X-Men of society, and they go in. So she's been you've been on the move, Dawn. You've been doing such a excellent job. You've got your daughter working with you. Is your daughter going to help you with the next book as well?
Yes, she is.
So
she's helping me with that, and
my question is, for anyone that is inspired by, the kind of content that you're writing, or someone that, has a story that they want to speak, but they're not really sure how to get it out or how to begin writing, how would they be able to get in contact with you to just to reach out and touch bases with someone who has done something so original as what you've done?
They are welcome to email us. I always tell everybody they can email us at ultimateblood1.
Nice.
So they can do that. That's at yahoo.com, of course.
Okay.
That is the easiest way we can get with them. We do have an author webpage, too, online. They can just put Ultimate Blood up, and you'll see it comes up. The Ultimate Blood page will come up. You'll see a bunch of stuff on the author webpage there. But I like them to email us the best way, because I always check emails, and so does my daughter.
Right.
And we're also on Facebook, so they can do that, too. But
ultimateblood1 at yahoo.com.
And I am telling everybody out there to please donate to Method 8 Arts Academy, Method8inc.com, Method8inc.com, because when we get the funds, we make movies out of like projects like yours. We take it and we
Don't you guys want to see this in real life?
Because her story.
Oh yeah,
I would love to see this.
Love to see our characters come to life.
Yeah,
Americans have to get involved with the arts. That is,
it's here.
Yeah, arts have always been a way for people to save themselves, you know, and that's what it's all about. So Dom, now you're on the move. I think you just came from Florida and things like that. Tell us some of the networks that you're in, some of the people you've been linking up with.
Actually, I've been busy down there doing book signing events and that with my daughter. We actually came back to the area because we're going to actually be starting a ghost series here, or a ghost TV series. So that's my main goal right now. I'm trying to get that up and running. I've got an actor that's coming aboard with me. He actually is from the Dukes of Hazzard, the original Dukes of Hazzard show.
Nice.
Byron Cherry. So he's going to actually be with me in the ghost hunting show.
That's cool.
And then I'm also going to have the guy from Breaking Bad, Matt Metzler. So he's actually going to come on the show with me. So I'm excited about that. So I've got two actors with me as an actress, of course.
Nice.
And then I'm bringing in a lady that actually does some paranormal investigation type studies, and she's coming from Indiana. So we're actually trying to put together where we're going to do ghost hunting. And,
I was going to say, are we going to be in the Ohio location? Because this would be interesting.
Yeah, everybody knows.
I keep trying to get word out. I'm trying to get people to send me information on where they have hauntings, what would they like us to come investigate. So if you guys know anybody, we would love to have them contact me. Definitely contact me so we can get this going.
And the best thing to do is to purchase the book so they can continue to support your cause.
That's right.
The best thing to purchase the book. And that's why I wanted to have you on today, Dom, because everybody always thinks that people, I think the main thing that people battle with when they see tragedies and they see things happen, like I've been working up at East. There was a little girl. Now listen to this. She had ended up losing her life, and it was heartbreaking when you see a young person, lose their life. But the thing I like about the story world and the arts world is you could bring these people back to life, and there could be some fulfillment. And that's what I'm telling you about arts and writing. And if you're out there and you have dark thoughts, or you feel like you're not useful,
get it out on paper.
Get it out. You have to put it on paper. And that's it. And even if you, like I said, no offense to, I'm not saying anything bad about J.K. Rowling, but she and herself was battling with some things, and she put it on paper, and look what it amounted to. So that's the story of an author. You gotta, and people would also say we need to get more people.
And there's another encouragement too when you bring up J.K. Rowling. People should know that her work, believe it or not, was rejected a lot.
Yeah.
It was rejected a lot. A lot of people don't realize that. She was turned down. My publishing company alone was telling us that she got letters back saying that her stuff was no good.
Wow.
Wow, look
but
what she
it was
did.
too young for adults and too old for children. And nobody would be into Wizard. And look, I mean...
Everybody loved it.
She took off.
So, I mean, that lady is very, very talented. She, you know, she was an excellent writer. And I love the Harry Potter stuff.
Oh, I loved it.
And
I do want people to, like I say, get out there and support all different types of authors. I'm just saying this, but Americans need, I want to preach to people about this now. Because,
preach.
Yeah.
It's Sunday. Let's go.
In the name of the Lord, we need to go out and bless the writers. We need to get out and buy the books and read the stories.
Get their stories out. Amen. Amen.
Ooh, I lost my voice. I was pretty
coming out.
But that's what we need, dog. We need to support. We need to get people active and read it. I want people to donate so they can go out and get your books, and you can make movies. Doesn't it make you happy though? When I read her book, Sparks, she was so excited. And when you read an author's story, it's like touching. It's like going to watch you dance, Sparks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you sit there.
You can see a creative form come to life.
She was so happy. I'm like, and that's what authors love.
Yeah.
Tell us what you want us to write. Whether it's something that's considered demonic or whatever, tell us what you want. So
and we live in a day and age where at this point in time it's more accepted, so you can be more, you have a more broader spectrum and a wider palette to jump from in order, to catch the creativity of the audiences. So
and like I said, for all the artists out there, for the rappers, I wasn't like putting them out there, but there's all different types of art, and it comes alive at many different parts in our lives.
Speaking of rappers, I mean, look at Tupac. Tupac was a poet.
Yeah,
he was a complete poet. He just knew how to put it together.
Now these are not, like I said, people think that this is dark, but this is the imagination at its best.
It's a beautiful dark. It's a beautiful darkness. It's not a deep and grungy and disgusting.
And that's the other thing that people need to realize is that when they do read your book, you're right, Brian, that it actually brings, and I've actually cried when fans have come back to our table at book events and said, I read Ultimate Blood. I love it. I can't wait for book 2. And I actually get teary-eyed, and I start crying. They're like, you're crying. And I'm like, I'm crying because I'm so happy because you've touched me.
It's not
there's so much heart and soul that goes into writing. I mean, it really is, and people don't realize that. You pour your heart and soul into this.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on and chatting with me and Sparks today. We're down to like the last minute of the show. I want to give a thank you and your family. Like I said, writing is not easy. You sit there and you get those thoughts out to the world, and your story is going to touch some lives. Like I said, you're creating a new avenue for people who don't know where to channel that imagination. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning into The Mediator with Brian West and Alicia Sparks.
That's right, you kidding that?
And if you want to donate to the program, Media8tor.com. Dom is going to be in some of our movies. She's got some things coming up, so definitely get in touch with her on Facebook. Always much love. We're gonna sit here for a little bit longer and chat. Now, on the way home, I'm gonna tell Sparks everything we did right and everything we did wrong. Did we do right by reading your book, Dom? Did we do right?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure being on your show today. And
thank you.
I look forward to working with you, Brian, in the future.
So you're saying we did right by reading?
Of course we did.
I know we did right.
I think you did. I think you did excellent.
With your book, I had fun with it. And I really appreciate it. But I want to thank everybody for tuning to The Mediator. Please tune in. Next week we have a big show. Next week we are talking about gospel music and the changes that it has made and how it might even save America. Gospel music.
You never know.
Yeah. So Dom, what you got going on before we got a few seconds left? Tell us one thing you got going on real fast.
Coming up.
Yeah, coming up.
What do I got coming up? I've got coming up your movie. I'm going to actually be meeting with, get the script to find out what my new character Tracy's like.
And she's meeting us. All right, perfect. I want to thank everybody for tuning to The Mediator.
Method 8.
Media8tor.com. Donate to the program.
Yes.
Have a good week and enjoy the reading world. Make sure you go out and purchase Dawn's book, Ultimate Blood. Have a good week, everybody.
We'll see you next
Bring
week.
in the music, my man. You can bring it in anytime. Thank you. Have a good week.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Listening to to News Talk 790 WPIC, Sharon Hermitage, a Cumulus station, sponsored by the Ridgewood at Shenango Valley, a premier senior living residence.